Chris, lovely to have you on. Where are you based, by the way? Are you based in Wellington?
Kia ora, good morning. I'm Auckland-based. I'm not a climatologist, though, but I appreciate the title. I'm a meteorologist by training and by
meteorologist.
I guess experience. Yeah, but that's
What's the difference between a climatologist and a meteorologist?
Well, I'll answer it this way: climate is what you expect, weather is what you get. So climatologists often. Yeah, climatology, you can deal with weather records, weather history. You can also look into projecting what climates will be like in the future, so-called climate change. So, yeah, there's horses for courses. It's all part of the science realm, but it's just like your doctor. You can have a cardiologist who studies the heart, and you can have a neurologist who studies the brain. Both are doctors, but different parts of the body.
Okay, so you guys are the practical and they're the theoretical. Is that right?
Well, no. I mean, we apply our science and we also research. But I'm on the applied side personally. I'm not a researcher. I'm involved with weather forecasting, climate, I guess, seasonal climate outlooks, which is what I'm here to talk about, which is basically trying to understand the themes Mother Nature will throw our way over, say, a longer period than a weather forecast, which is traditionally, today, tomorrow, maybe out to about a week, perhaps even 10 days. That's what we kind of, I guess, qualify as a weather forecast. And then there's climate outlooks, which is something more like 3, 4, 5, 6 months. So at NIWA, we issue a climate outlook at the very end of each month. And that climate outlook extends out to 3 months, and we update that at the end of each month. So, yep, that's basically Mother Nature and what themes she may throw our way. So it's not a weather forecast where you maybe open up your favorite app or go to your favorite website or watch on TV or listen on the radio. It's trying to identify what the themes will be at a longer time horizon.
Yeah, and generally that's probably more accurate, actually. I have to be honest with you in my daily weather forecast. Listen, I'm looking here at your regional predictions for June, August 2024, so basically the 3 months of winter. And over the last, 2, 3, 4 years, we've actually had quite warm winters, warm to the point where our local, particularly our local ski fields have suffered in terms of our international tourism because they've had to make probably most of their snow. It just hasn't fallen. I understand Ruapehu up in the North Islands had similar issues. But that's all due, that was all due, wasn't it, to the El Nino weather pattern. That's changed, has it, now to something called La Nina. Have I got that right?
Generally, not entirely. So, yeah, climate drivers such as El Nino and La Nina, like you spoke of, they do influence our weather. But our climate is warming at the same time. So our climate is warming, and you throw in these naturally occurring events, and they do vary the climate. The analogy I like to use is that if you're in let's say, an old house, a real big house, it's old, real big house, and the overall temperature of the house is increasing very slowly. It's going up every decade, maybe 1/10 of a degree Celsius on average. But in different parts of the room, or different parts of the house, I should say, some rooms may be a bit warmer and some may be a bit cooler. And maybe in one room you got the oven on, so that's going to make that room particularly warmer. And maybe in a different room you have a drafty window, it'll make that room a little bit cooler. But still, everything's increasing ever so steadily, on average about 1/10 of a degree Celsius. So those examples I gave of one room being a bit warmer and one room being a bit cooler because of maybe a drafty window or an oven on, that's kind of an analogous to, say, a natural variability, such as El Nino, such as La Nina. And to your point, back to your question, we had La Nina for 3 consecutive years, which ended in March of 2023, so about a year ago, a little more than a year ago. And that tends to give us winds more from the east and northeast. And that would certainly load the dice for, a warm winter in any time. But these winters are warmer for for other reasons that I've said. This winter, we're not in El Nino. We're not in La Nina. We're in what we call neutral, so it's neither. And our expectation is that by the time we are in spring, odds will favor about a 2 in 3 chance that we'll see La Nina beginning to emerge and take hold in the tropical Pacific. But that's in spring. That's not for the next 3 months. So for
for the next 3 months, if the next 3 months, are you saying that we're going to have what you might call a traditional winter then for New Zealand?
Not really. No. Even though El Nino has ended, as I say, its impacts can still remain. And the analogy I like to give is that most of us have had COVID. You feel like garbage. You take a rat, and you see that, double lines. You're positive, right? And then after about a week, you start feeling better a little bit, and maybe you take another test, and, well, gosh, you don't have COVID anymore. You don't see those double lines. However, you still have coughs. You still feel lethargic. You're not quite right. You still have these symptoms that linger, even though you don't have COVID. And it's the same kind of, I guess, idea or theme with our climate drivers. El Nino has ended, but the atmosphere is a little bit slower to acknowledge that. El Nino, what we're doing is we're looking at ocean temperatures, and we're looking at where it's unusually cool and unusually warm. Well, that actually affects the atmosphere. And the atmosphere and the ocean, when they evolve and change, they don't do it at the same speed. The atmosphere is a little bit slower to respond to changes. So what we'll probably get during the winter is these El Nino-like coughs, for lack of a better term. And as we head toward the spring season, so, we got early June like we're in now, compare that to, say, mid-August, which is obviously toward the tail end of winter, we may start seeing some La Nina coughs from the atmosphere, even though we're not quite there yet. So we're going to be in this spectrum for the next 3-4 months or so when we're transitioning from one climate driver, El Nino, to a new climate driver, La Nina.
Okay.
And we expect that will be influencing our weather beyond winter.
Okay, so for this winter, is it going to be colder than the last 5 years and more stable? Is there going to be
We don't predict that. So
you don't?
Yeah, we don't predict ranking. So we're predicting theme. So the theme is for average or above average temperatures for the winter season. Now, it doesn't mean everywhere will be. It doesn't mean everywhere will be equal. Some places in Northland may be a bit warmer compared to what their climatology or what is normal for them. Some places in Northland may be a bit warmer than, say, places in Southland, for example. But our expectation is that when it all comes out in the wash by early September, when this is in the rearview mirror, we'll find much of New Zealand in that either average or above average category when it comes to temperature. Yes, there'll be cold snaps. That's what happens. But it's unlikely cold snaps will be as sustained or as frequent as they were in May. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if that at the end of the day or at the end of the winter season, come September, when we're saying, right, where were the coldest temperatures, or better yet, when did the coldest temperatures occur over the past several months? And a lot of places may very well have seen that occur in May as opposed to winter proper. Our expectation is, as I say, average to above average temperatures. There will be cold snaps. Of course there will be, but that will not define the winter season. What will define the winter season is either average or above average temperatures as a whole.
We've had some very dry conditions, particularly inland and North Otago coast and things like that. Canterbury, another area as well. Are you predicting that there will be sufficient rain to avert what could be quite severe farming conditions in spring?
Yeah, it's a good question, because this is the time of year when we want groundwater recharge. So basically, that is a term I've learned from a hydrologist here at NIWA, where we want to replenish the ground, the soil, the system with water that has been removed from man, from Mother Nature. It's got to get back into the ground.